Hey, it's Mr. John's Riverglen Tech program. Today I want to talk a little bit about tool safety, hand tool safety. And so I have a variety of hacksaws. These are all hacksaws, okay? So a variety of hacksaws, a pair of scissors, hobby knife, and a wood saw, commonly referred to as a handsaw or a common saw. Also have a 2x4 over here clamped down to the table. So let's talk about scissors first. Why am I even talking about scissors? I just want to make one comment. These are designed for paper. I have a lot of students who want to use them to cut everything else. Different kinds of wood, cardboard, and that kind of stuff probably okay if it's paper based. So cardboard, foam board that I'm cutting here is fine. But once you start cutting things like dowels, balsa wood, I mean, they will do the job, but it dulls the blades and it nicks them up. And almost all my scissors are nicked up, right? And I buy cheap scissors anyway, most of the time. And so it doesn't take very long for them to be worthless. So my saying, which isn't unique to me, find the right tool for the right job, and it'll do the job for you, right? So scissors are for paper, cardboard, foam, and they'll stay plenty sharp if you use them for that purpose, okay? Where the scissors are sharpest are right here in the V, down here in the V. So you'll notice when you try to cut, a lot of times the tip isn't that sharp. So the more you get down in that V, that's where that's where the real power of scissors is. That's all I want to say about that. Secondly, hobby knives. So referred to as Exacto Knives often because that's one company that makes them, but we'll call them hobby knives because I have different brands. But they're very, very sharp. Probably the most dangerous tool I have. Even though I have a lot of power tools, this one may be the most dangerous. It's a lot like a doctor's scalpel. So very, very sharp. So don't mess around with these at all. And they're not saws. They're not made for sawing back and forth. There's no teeth. It's a very sharp blade. And ironically, the sharper they are, the safer they are. Okay? And because if they're dull, then you're having to push too hard and start kind of a sawing motion. Bad. So bring it to me, and I'll get you a new blade. All right? Now, once in a while, these blades will start getting a little bit loose. And so there's two areas on these typically that have like a little bit of texture. And so that basically shows you where to hold. And so you can hold one and twist to loosen and take out. And you can do just the opposite. Hold and twist. And a lot of times the blade will spin. And so I have to put my finger here so that it will not spin. Be careful. And these get a little bit loose as you're working with them sometimes. So if you feel it getting a little loose, just give it a little twist. Keep it tight. All right, so the key here with hobby knives, when you walk around the classroom, put them down. Point them straight down by your legs so you're not walking around like this. All right, that's important. And then always bring them back to me so I know where they are. If you do lose a blade, let me know. We don't want them laying around the classroom so people sit on them or step on them. Okay, so we're going to use a metal yardstick or ruler. You're going to draw the line you want to cut. And then the safest way to do this is to try to have as much of your hand above where you're going to cut as possible. Now that's not always possible because you have to start the cut, and that's a lot of times near your hand. So it's important that you're pushing straight, not hard. You don't have to push hard. The sharper the blade will do the work. Okay? But you push straight down and not towards your hand, obviously, so that if it does jump the yardstick, it could be so bad, really so bad. I've seen, not in my class, I've seen a couple cuts in my class. And yes, we've sent people to the nurse's office. And yes, I've sent a few people to the hospital a couple times. So, with tips of fingers getting cut off and things like that. Yikes. So, let's not do that. So let's say I've got this cut all the way down this foam board. I've got the line, and I'm going to put pressure. I'm going to spread my hand out as big as I can. I have small hands. But I'm going to put my hand on the yardstick as wide as I can. I don't want it to be moving down here, right? So that's why I do that. But I also don't want my hand down here. So I'm going to put my hand as wide as I can, get it on the line, and I'm going to push down. I'm just using the ruler as a guide. I'm not cutting against the ruler. I'm just cutting straight down. I'm on a wood table, so I don't care if it goes into the wood. And I'm going straight. Now, if you feel like the yardstick is walking or moving, you can stop and move your hand again. As long as your hand is above the blade, that's fine. So if you have a really big thing to cut, you could keep moving all the way down. So if the blade did its job, it cut right through it. All right. So one of my favorite tools, I use them all the time. So just be really careful with it. The other hacksaws, my favorite hacksaw is these little guys with little tiny teeth. And they're so tiny that they really can't cut you. I mean, if you started sawing, yes, it definitely would, but they're not sharp. But they're so fine that they'll cut through a pencil. Here's a pencil. You just kind of get it going. You don't have to push hard. The teeth are so good, so sharp, that they will cut right through your pencil. So I love this tool. You can use it to cut anything. Now don't push hard. I don't want these to get bent up. So you literally just let the teeth do the work. Don't be in a hurry. Be patient. And just let it go nice and smooth all the way through. Okay? Really, the smoother you go and the more patient you are, the nicer the cut will be. All right, next hacksaw, this one, it's basically the same kind of thing, but the teeth go in opposite directions. And so it's designed to cut through stuff quicker. And so I'm going to use this. I guess I could try a pencil. Let's see what it does with a pencil. It's a little harder to get started because it's not fine-toothed. Fine-toothed. It's not a fine-toothed tool. So it's tough to get going, but once you get it going, then it goes right through it, like that. So it doesn't cut as smooth. It gets the job done, but it's not like I would say it's not a very accurate, neat tool. I'll be honest with you, I don't use this one, probably ever. So I mean, it's not much different than the teeth of a true handsaw, right? So that's really what it is a small handsaw for cutting wood. Now it's not really powerful enough to cut through something big like a 2x4. That's when we'll switch over to the handsaw. But for small pieces of wood, little pieces of balsa wood or small pine, different kinds of wood that you might be using for projects, right? I don't see the need. If I can use the small hacksaw, I'll use that every time. But if the wood does get, thick, you notice that the blade is thicker, so I can get through. It'll stop when it hits this, so I can get through thicker wood. Just not a fan. So this tool, this hacksaw, is made for metal. Okay, so just so you know, I see people using them all the time, and they'll cut other things. But this blade is designed to cut through metal. So if you have, I don't know if I have one, a metal axle for like a dragster, I would put it in a vise, very tight so it can't move. And then once you kind of get the groove going, it'll slice right through this, like a steel axle. These blades, even though not sharp here, but they're designed to cut through metal. So just so you know, right tool for the right job. And then lastly, handsaw. Okay, so this is a fine finish handsaw, brand new, just got it. And so I'm right-handed, and so what I have is a 2x4 that's clamped to the table. Now, if it's not clamped, it moves. So have a buddy hold it for you if you don't have clamps. Put it in a vise, but if you don't have clamps or a vise, have a buddy hold it for you. If you don't have a buddy or a vise or clamps, you're going to have to just do your best. I do it all the time. So you literally just kind of have to hold it. The trick here is know where you're going to cut, right? So you're going to make sure you measure, let's just say I want 4 inches. So 4 inches right here, okay? Straight across. Let's make sure I'm 4 on both sides. Okay. Right there. All right, so remember that there's a width of the pencil line, there's the width of the blade, so make sure if you need this to be 4 inches exactly, take those things into consideration, but we're talking a millimeter or 2. So, all right, so the trick here is I like to use my pointer finger, I'm right-handed, and I like to put it against the blade as I pull straight back. So what I have is, I have a groove started. I want to make sure that it's straight, it's parallel, and once it's deep enough, I can start pushing forward. Now typically blades, they're easier to pull backwards, but here we go. So I'm making sure I'm staying parallel, I'm not tipping left or right. I'm using my shoulder, cutting at about a 45-degree angle, making sure that my 2x4 is not moving, which it's not. Not very much, it's moving a little bit. And I'm really letting the teeth do the work, just like any other toothed tool. Tooth tool. The blades, the teeth are sharp, so I mean I can barely push like this. I don't have to use my shoulder much. It's going to cut right through it. It's amazing. But it's just nice to use your shoulder, hold the wood, and then when you get close to the end, usually it's good to slow down and make smaller, more delicate cuts, so the wood doesn't break off in chunks. And so if you do a nice job, it should be a straight cut, it should be smooth. It's usually not perfectly straight. It's because you're human. And so if it matters, like that's not perfect, but if I just need a little 4-inch piece of wood, that works. The next step, if you needed this to be straight, would be to take it to the sander and just run it through the belt sander and you're back straight. Okay, so anyway, that's some of the basics, at least in my class, some very basic tools, how to choose them for the right job and how to use them safely. So you'll have a chance to use all of these in my classes, and hopefully you already have a chance at home to do so. If not, we'll do it in here. And that's it for hand tool safety. Mr. Johns out.